Wall ISD and San Angelo ISD are under investigation after complaints have been filed at the Office of Civil Rights. A man was indicted for shooting and killing a dog, and the August search for silver is here. I'm James Bellini, and this is Live. We'll get to the news in a minute, but first, a quick message from Mammoth Roofing.
Hi, I'm Trisha Lira, third-generation roofer and owner at Mammoth Roofing Services. I love what I do, and what I do is build the world's best roofs. Need financing? I got you. 12 months, 0 interest. I'm Trisha Lira. I want to be your roofer for life.
Starting off the news, the Wall and San Angelo Independent School Districts are under investigation after complaints were filed against them. Wall has a Title IX complaint, which is sex-based discrimination in any school or education-based program that receives federal funding. SISD has 3 complaints, one concerning English language learners, one concerning gifted and talented STEM, college career readiness, and career and technical education programs, and the third for disability. Neither schools can comment while the investigation is ongoing, and this does not mean any wrongdoing has occurred, just that the complaints have been filed. A San Angelo man was indicted for shooting his girlfriend's dog. 27-year-old Lathan Henley was indicted for cruelty to non-livestock animals. According to court documents, Henley allegedly admitted to shooting the dog after it became aggressive and bit at his ankles, although no discoloration or injuries were observed on him. He stated that he fired 1 round at the animal, but 3 spent casings were found. Due to lack of physical evidence of Henley being bit by the dog and other findings, Henley was arrested and charged with cruelty to non-livestock animals. He was then booked in on May 10th, 2024, and he was released the same day on $20,000 bond. He is due in court this month. Have you downloaded the all-new San Angelo Live mobile app yet? It's free and it's the best app in the business. Download it off the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store to stay up to date with news in San Angelo. And the August search for silver scavenger hunt begins tomorrow. So far this summer, the silver eagle coins have been found, and we have one more chance for you to find around $800 worth of silver. All you have to do is find the silver coin container and follow the clues given to you on SanAngeloLive.com and the Live Daily News Show. All the clues this week are brought to you by The Outdoorsman, located at 2231 West Beauregard Avenue. And the weather, there has not been much change in the weather, as it looks like the heat is here to stay. Right now it's 101 with a high of 103, and tonight a low of 72. Friday the high is 104 with a low of 75. Saturday the high remains 104, as does the low at 75. Monday and Sunday are looking like 102 for highs and lows in the mid to low 70s. On Tuesday next week, the high reaches up to 105. When we come back, the COVER1 Crew talks offensive linemen, and then I sat down with Sara Teams from Fort Concho to talk about a penmanship program. But first, a word from the Bass Bunch.
It's our giant tag sale.
Right now, during our giant tag hail sale, you can get a brand new 2024 Ford Bronco Sport for just $25,999.
Don't miss our giant tag sale, only at Jim Bass Cars and Trucks, Houston, Hart, and Arden Road, or 24/7 at bassbunch.com.
And welcome to today's edition of Cover One. I'm your host, James Bellini, with my co-host, Ryan Chadwick and Paul Harris. How are we doing, guys?
Oh, doing great, man. Talking about offensive linemen today.
The big guys up front who don't get any attention paid to them at all.
Well, I mean, might not light up the stat reel, but none of the skill position players score any touchdowns without these guys. So they're really important, and our good friend over here, Paul Harris, has put together a top 10 or top 11, I guess, right? Watch list of guys to look out for. More like teams to look out for, but there are some specific guys on this list that are going to make it possible for these quarterbacks to throw touchdown passes and for these running backs to find open running lanes.
All right, yeah, let's go right into talking about Mason. Sometimes it always falls back to Mason. They're going to be – they return to everybody in the offensive line. They've got Chance Reed, Rylan Todd, John Preston Parrish, Walker Ince, and Cannon Raban going back. That's 5 guys, 5 offensive linemen, 5 guys. They got their running back going back, quarterback going back, tight end going back. Paul, these guys are loaded up front, right?
You can't really be any more loaded up front than these guys. So I had to cheat a little bit, let all 5 of them share the top spot. I was talking to Coach McLeod recently, and he said not only are they experienced, but they're experienced playing together. They're all 5 seniors, all 5 first-team All-District last year, and they've been blocking together for a long time. So the cohesion that they have, you really can't have a much better situation than Mason does with its line this year.
Right. See, Mason should run away with this district, at least offensively. Defensively, they're going to be fine, but offensively. Chadwick, let's talk about the Central Bobcats on this list.
Okay, so we got 2 guys coming back this year, 2 guys who helped anchor that offensive line last season on a team that scored, average scoring 34 points a game. Don't let that record fool you. This was one of the best offenses and offensive lines in the district last year, and these 2 guys are actually going to be in the leadership roles this year. And guys, forgive me, but Chase Cole, I'm not going to get your name wrong, but Tuata Kalamafoni, again, forgive me, I did my best. But these guys are very talented, both over 6 feet tall, both over 250 pounds, both have several colleges looking at them, both big and strong. They've spent another year in that tough Bobcats offseason program. And Coach Smith said that all these guys are hitting it hard, and he's super excited to see what the Bobcats offense can do this year. Again, I've said it all this week. We don't know what the Bobcats offense is going to look like, but with guys of this size on that offensive line, it's going to be explosive.
All right, let's talk about Brady's offensive defensive lineman, DeMarcus Reed. He was a sophomore last year. He's a junior this year. First team all-district selection. Played his butt off last year and really played solid and well for him. I expect really good things. He's a good kid. I watched a lot of Brady last year, and DeMarcus Reed was one of those guys that popped off the film and is going to be extremely good for that team down there, helping out second-year head coach Jaron Roberts up front. Let's talk about Wall real quick.
Well, hold on. Let's give a guy a nod to someone who was also great on the defensive side of the ball there out at Brady. He had 79 tackles in 11 games, so
right.
That's pretty impressive.
He probably could have made this list as one of our top 10 defensive players as well.
Yeah, so we got to give him his flowers, headed into this year.
And we've been talking about how offensive line don't get any recognition. Neither the big guys up front on defense, really. So,
well, especially when it's the same
guy. Unless you're a sack
guy.
artist,
Yeah.
Unless you're putting up 15
big sack
sacks
numbers.
a season. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so that kid from Brady, he's great on the offensive line, great on the defensive line. Watch out, Bulldogs fans. He's going to be great this year.
All right, let's talk about Emmett Marlett and Hudson Braden from Wall.
Man, so Wall is a bit of a head scratcher this year because truly they've never had to have really big offensive linemen just because of the kind of offensive style they run. They kept the ball on the ground. It's lots of triple option, lots of cut blocks right off the snap, along with UIL changes that have happened over the last 10 years. That's had to change a little bit, but for the most part, they're not going up against big defensive lines like Jim Neds and Canadians every single week. So smaller guys could play. With that being said, moving to a more pass-oriented spread offense this year, we're just going to kind of have to see how it's going to go. But these are 2 of the leaders on that Wall offensive line, and they're not small and they're really strong. Wall always brings a really strong group to the table, but kind of like Central, we just don't really know what it's going to look like yet. But watch out for these 2 guys to definitely lead that offense on the offensive line.
All right. Let's talk about Christian Martinez and Colton Kelly from Sonora and Miles, respectively. Christian Martinez, one of the top returners on that Bronco offensive line that did graduate. Jacob Martinez, Elijah Samaniego, and Chavarria. That was one thing that I thought they were going to have to find out those guys who are going to replace the talent that graduated, because I had all the respect for Jacob and Elijah and those guys. So Christian Martinez bringing back some experience up front. Paul, let's talk about Colton Kelly.
Yeah, he's kind of like DeMarcus Reed from Brady.
He's big.
Yeah, he's a defensive force. He put up some great numbers on the defensive side of the ball, and he's also a huge part of what they do offensively. Big guy, and again, probably could have made this team, our top 10 defensive team. But ultimately what he's done on offense is a huge part of what Miles does as well. So.
All right, Sergio Ochoa from Junction. He's 6 foot, 240 pounds. Junction returned a lot too. I think didn't they return like 11 starters on offense?
Pretty much, they were a really young team last year, and so they brought back a bunch of guys. And anytime you bring an offensive lineman back that's 6 feet and above, you're doing something right there. So look out for Junction to have a better year than they did last year, being as young as they were. But it all starts on that offensive line. So
yeah, they had a pretty good running game last year too, from what I remember.
They did. Yeah, they will again.
All right. Jason Santillano from El Dorado.
This bro can't say Santiano.
I cannot.
Yeah, he's another guy, first team all district on both sides of the ball. You know, big part of what El Dorado does. And he's really, you know, their only returner on the line that was first or second team all district. So he's especially important for them this year.
What about Coulter Folk from Cristobal?
Man.
That was one guy Otho said to me was, hey, I said, hey man, who's one guy in your offensive line? He threw Folk's name out, and I heard nothing but good things about him.
Well, and that's another one of those things. Like one of the biggest things that the offensive line never gets recognized for is the fact that they are the anchors of the team. They're always going to be the biggest guys. They're always going to be the strongest guys, and they're also going to usually be the most hardworking guys. Like I've never personally experienced it because I was a skill position player, but moving all that weight, doing some of the conditioning drills that we had to do back in the day, I mean, come on, right? So
yeah, until two-a-days started splitting up. You can't have two two-a-days in the same row, but
right. Hey,
that's a discussion for another time.
Yeah, but still, it's just one of those things. Like all these names on this list are guys that are probably more than likely the hardest workers on the team too.
Right. All right, and let's talk about the just area standouts real quick. You got Jay Roman from San Angelo Lakeview, Avon Ochoa from Ballinger, Jack Nichols from Forsan, Colden Averett from Forsan, Mason Meyer from Winters, Colton Dyer from Bront, and Cade Manley from Water Valley. Bront and Water Valley going to be playing 6-man. Who stuck out on that list for you, Paul?
Well, Jay Roman's Lakeview's top returning lineman. He's definitely somebody that was under consideration for the top 10, linemen on this list, and I think he's probably one of the best linemen we got in our area.
All right.
I'm interested in those two 6-man guys though, because like, can you imagine the amount of running you have to do as a lineman on a 6-man team?
I know you don't think 6-man's real football, Chadwick.
See,
but
that has never been said.
Yes, it absolutely has been said.
Incredibly difficult. It's a speed game,
I'm putting you on the spot right now.
It's one of those. Well, you're incorrect, first of all, but second of all,
I'm not.
The 6-man game is a speed game. Like, can we talk about football, James? That'd be great. And so back to what I was saying about these offensive linemen, it's definitely one of those where it's just going to be conditioning, strength, like those are the leadership positions, because any team in the 6-man game who can run the football in 6-man, I'm impressed. First of all, it just opens up those opportunities for those big plays. And
6-man linemen get to catch passes too, so it's
everyone's eligible.
11-man linemen can only dream of that glory.
Now you put up 100 point, you have a 100 game going on, and you got not much defense, but you got an incredible game. So, Paul, what's going to be up for tomorrow?
Got our top 10 defensive players. Last list we got coming out here.
All right. And
should be a good one. And I appreciate the friendly ribbing, James. Got to put me on blast in front of everybody.
I'll always keep you honest, Jim. And then next week, of course, 2-a-day starts on the 5th. And then pads go on the 10th, right?
That's right.
All right. We're getting closer, everybody. We're inching closer to football. I think everybody here is excited about it. But until then, this has been James Bellini with my co-hosts, Ryan Chadwick and Paul Harris. You can go to San Angelo Live and catch all these lists: quarterbacks, receivers, running backs, offensive line, and tomorrow defensive guys, as well as a dream tour of throughout the year. You got the dream tour of teams you can go check out from week 1 to week 11, and district previews. So check those out on San Angelo Live, and tomorrow we'll be back.
It's hard to believe how reckless some people can be and how hard they fight against real victims. You need a partner who consistently beats the giants and who will never, ever flinch.
And welcome back. James Blaine here with Sara Teams with Fort Concho. Sara, how are we doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
Thanks for having me back, by the way.
Absolutely. We love having you on. I've said it before. You acted like you knew exactly what you were doing the first time you came in here, and it was like you knew what you were talking about and you enjoyed talking about it. But we're talking about the Penmanship program today.
Absolutely. So August 13th, we're hosting one of our educational programs, and I came on here because I wanted to tell people about it. So August 13th at 7 p.m. in our officer quarters number 8, we're going to be hosting an hour-long lecture/activity. There's a lot of times where people are coming in and realizing there's these lost arts, and one of them is penmanship. And specifically, while Fort Concho is active, they use something called Spencerian cursive. And so we're going to use that time to go over some historic letters that Fort Concho has in archives. When I first started at Fort Concho, I was hiding in the archives for years before I started being like a public face.
Right.
And I would sit there and work on these papers, and I was reading handwriting I'd never seen before. And the K's would get mistaken for L's and G's, and you're just sitting there like, what is this? And we figured out, I figured out, everyone else had it figured out, but it was Spencerian cursive, and I want to bestow that knowledge to the community.
All right, what's the difference between Spencerian cursive and modern day cursive?
Yeah, that's so that we use standard hand now,
Okay.
but most like our computers, we have fonts. So did handwriting. There was phases of fashion for handwriting. There was another handwriting before Spencerian. You'll see it if you ever look at like the Declaration of Independence. It's like this beautiful calligraphy, but Spencerian looks different. It's just another font. It picked up really the font came out and everyone's like, yeah, we want to do that. And the McGuffey reader had it in it. And so everyone and their mother decided to replicate it. And so it was just the common thing. But with books being pressed and more consumable than ever, over time the handwriting turned into a standard version that we know today.
And was that just maybe easier for people to take in and easier for people to write, or was it?
I wonder about that myself. I couldn't definitively answer, but I think it's like one of those senses of fashionable changes. Victorians had their fashion stances that we don't do anymore because we don't need to write 3 swirls next to a K, But
I use capitals and backwards E's because I went to Cristobal, so no shade, everybody. I'm sorry.
That was quite shady.
But yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. So we'll be hosting that. I pulled up Benjamin Grierson, who's the commander at Fort Concho. He showed up at Fort Concho by 1874 after he left Fort Sill. Well, he came in, and when he became head of the post, all of his documents that he wrote up, you look at his handwriting and you realize, oh, just like today, everyone has a balance of handwriting. Some write really well, some write really bad. Ben was in a hurry. He was running the whole show, and his handwriting replicated that. But then I'll show letters like Aunt Helen's, where you can sit there, and even if you've never looked at Spencerian, you could probably read it because she was so legible. And so we'll have conversations about that along the way.
All right, that sounds very interesting. I mean, just to learn the difference would be valuable. I mean, it does. It really does sound very interesting. You're very into it, it seems.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to spend years down in archives.
It's honestly one of the best places. We always have volunteer opportunities open for people who want to transcribe our historical documents so that we have them typed up. So we're not spending an hour reading a single letter. And
Okay.
so people who are interested and come into that class and say, hey, I want to do this more often, they can also volunteer with us.
All right, so when is it?
It is 7 p.m. August 13th at Officer Quarters number 8, which if you're driving through the fort on East Avenue D, it's the 8th building down.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Sara Teams, thank you so much for coming in today.
Yeah, thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. Back to you guys.
When it comes to unique pieces you can't find anywhere else, Conno's Diamonds and Coins is your one-stop shop. With over 24 years in the diamond and coin industry, Conno's Diamonds and Coins is West Texas's choice for diamonds, jewelry, coins, silver, and gold. Owner Bill Conno stands by his work and offers free consultations, including estate jewelry. Don't just trust anyone with your valuables. Come see the staff at Conno's at 1016 West Beauregard in San Angelo.
Thanks for watching the Live Daily News Show, the only locally owned news show in the Concho Valley. Go like us on Facebook, X, and other social media platforms, and download the San Angelo Live mobile app today to stay up to date on news from in and around the Concho Valley. Thanks again, and we'll see you